Welcome back to the channel. I'm Crypto Trend Trader, and today we're going to be looking at Bitcoin on the daily. But before we get started, I'd like to remind you this is not financial advice. I'm not your financial advisor. These markets are extremely volatile, so please trade at your own risk. Alright, so basically we have the Bitcoin daily chart here on Coinbase, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off all the drawing tools for just a second here. I just want to show off the moving averages a little more clearly, and you'll see basically what I have is the 10, the 21, the 50 in green, the 89, and then we have the various 200s, the exponential and the simple, and all the rest of these are exponential. But basically what we're looking for in an uptrend is you're looking for these sprawled out in this exact order: red, yellow, green, purple, blue, blue, and then the white last. So what you'll see happening is we're starting to coil back up, and we're essentially flattening out, losing the uptrend. So what we were getting support off of this whole time was the 89, and that had been acting as basically an ascending support line, so we kept getting it higher and higher. When we finally broke through here and came down below it, what we're expecting now after that break is a retest back up to the 89 at about 98.32, and then if that fails, if we fail to break back above that moving average, what's going to happen is we're going to get a violent dump, and the violent dump is going to take us down to the 200. Maybe not immediately, but it's going to step down there because that is our next support line that bots and algorithms are going to be using, and that's putting us in right now at the 8500 range, and they're going to continue upward over time. So the longer it takes for this test to happen, the higher up that average is going to be. But basically that's our next target. That's what we're looking for. Now that we lost this as support, we retest it. We find that it's resistance now because it flips once you break through it. If we find it's resistance and we can't break back above it, we will actually dump down here. We'll continue this downtrend by the parabolic SAR, and we'll lose this support zone. Has been very powerful, where all these blue dots come in from the top right here to the bottom right here. That's been a very powerful support zone. And now we're getting ready to lose that if we break down to the 200. So then we're going to look back a little further, and we're going to see that's our main target, is this consolidation zone from the way up. That's going to come into line with all these moving averages as well. So that's where we're likely going to end up here shortly, and that's where we're getting some of these targets. Now I'm going to turn the drawing tool back on, and we'll see that purple descending triangle, depending how that plays out. If we end up getting the descending triangle like I was expecting, we could potentially bounce to the upside off of it, but our target is still down here mid-September in the 8200 range, and you'll see that lines up perfectly with where the 200 moving averages are going to be. It also lines up with our fib circle, and then our triangle, like we were saying before, everybody else was looking at it symmetrical triangle, and we were saying no, it's not a symmetrical triangle, it's a descending triangle, flat bottom, curved top. We just haven't retested the bottom yet, so people are getting psyched out. And now here we are, it's played out exactly like we said. What's happening now is we're coming down on this support line here, bouncing around, and we're expecting to happen next is we get a little test up here. We could potentially break back above and get all the way up to the top of this triangle, but I think at this point in time it's not very likely, because we have essentially lost support in a key area. But what I'm expecting is basically to bounce around in this area right here, and then that downsloping line inside of the triangle is going to push us down to this next area here, which is going to come in at the 0.5 for the entire run. On the fib level, and we were, like I said before, we were finding a lot of strength off the 382 in green here, and now the 0.5 was the next target because we never actually got all the way down to the 0.5, and again that's going to come in exactly with the 200 moving average. So at this point in time there's enough confluence that we basically can count on touching in that point right there and then getting a strong bounce, and that could take us up as high as the 382, finish out the 3 wave of the wave down. That would give us our 4 retracement. We cannot come higher by a wick than this 99.54 range, so we can't come higher than this 382 by much on the bounce, and then we can finally get our 5th wave of the C correction. So we had an A, B, C correction for the entire move up, and now we're getting the C wave, which is composed of 5 smaller waves. We had the 1, the 2, the 3 is completing right now. We have a little bit ways to go yet on the 3, and then we get the 4 bounce back up, and then we can get our 5 completion, and then from there we have the potential essentially to bounce and go to higher prices, or we can get a trend failure, and essentially we could just get an impulse failure to the upside, like a weak push up, and then we can get a dump, or we could just get a straight dump. Down to the 618 is still a viable target. The 618 is going to come in below the 200 moving averages, but it's going to be in line with our 377, so that is possibility. And again, that's a strong support line from this whole move up here, so there's definitely a possibility we could find support there. But if we break through that area and start closing below, anywhere below 72, 77, I think the entire trend is potentially in jeopardy. We do not want to see a bullish move up like this, a bull rally like this, and then come back down to a 786. Matter of fact, anything over the 0.5 is where you start to wonder, is this rally getting faded or not? You don't want to see a 618 on a healthy bull rally that's going to continue to the upside. Not in Bitcoin. 382 and 0.5 is basically like the sweet spot for Bitcoin if it's going to keep pushing up powerfully to the upside. But again, anything could happen. We have to play it as it goes. I mean, this target already is taking us into like mid-September, so I wouldn't expect anything overnight, but I think we are going to continue slowly rising up and then just dump on down. I'm going to go to a smaller time frame here so we can get a little bit closer of a look. But essentially what's happening here is we're basically putting in some upsloping consolidation right now. And typically what happens is you start moving up like this. We're getting respect on the heart line. And then what happens is you'll slowly bounce around here, get a little bit higher, and then typically what you're going to see happen is it's going to get up, maybe do like a little spring push up here, and then you'll get a dump on down. So again, it may not line up exactly with these. I'm just leaving them in place because that was where my projection for price action was going to be. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to slowly start creeping up here, and then we're maybe right when we run into this SAR here on the 4-hour, we could possibly break it and signal an uptrend and then fake out and dump down. But I think essentially what we're looking for is this purple downsloping resistance line inside of the triangle to act as resistance. So I think likely around September 2nd it looks like, and it's saying 8. That's not exact, but around September 2nd, we're basically going to run into this resistance line here. If price creeps down a little lower, it could take as long as September 4th to get squeezed into here. But again, it's just going to form another one of these triangles, and then what's going to happen is we're going to end up breaking. And in this situation, most likely we are going to break to the downside. Now I do want to do something here just so people can see. You see where these fib circles and everything comes in here? I'm going to actually switch now off of log scale. Some people are going to argue to use log scale. Some people are going to argue don't use log scale. The key is to use it both ways so you can have an idea of what people are looking at. Because if 30 people are looking at something in log scale and 70% are not looking at it in log scale, 30% of the people are still looking at it in log scale. And what you're looking for is confluence, and this is all market psychology. So if you see an important trend line or something going on in one scale that you can't see in the other, it's important because there could be potentially 30%, 50%, 70% of other people could be looking at it that way. And you're saying, oh no, I only look at it this way because this is the right way to do it. No, the right way to do it is to see what everyone else is seeing and see it more clearly than what they're seeing so you can get an edge. And that's the key, is to look at both. So don't get stuck in this mindset, oh no, I was taught to do it this way, or you don't do it that way, or whatever, because in the end, the best thing to do is have an open mind and see where the market's telling you, and then use that to get an edge. Don't make up your mind ahead of time and then say, yep, see, I'm right, the market did exactly what I said. Because the market can do anything it wants at any time. I mean, literally, especially in a market with such a small market cap like crypto and Bitcoin, anything could happen. So don't get stuck in that mindset. So, all right, so here we have it. That's our descending line here. Resistance inside the triangle. We've basically just been bouncing around. We're looking for the completion. Excuse me. We're looking for the completion of wave 3 and then potentially get our move down here to the bottom wave 5. I did put this blue arrow in here just so we could kind of see where we could potentially come up to, but as you can see with the fibs and confluence and everything, at this point in time I think it's very unlikely that we're going to get that strong move to the upside. But again, I do like to just have it on here so we're not surprised if it does happen. Essentially what it would be doing is we'd be touching the bottom of the triangle, top of the triangle, coming down here, and before we get to the bottom we could get a smaller push up than this peak right here, which would still be inside the triangle. We could actually get this is something that happens very often in markets, is you'll start breaking up here and people are thinking, oh wait, are we going up? And then as soon as you break this little guy right here, you'll get a big push because we're putting in essentially higher highs, and then we'll break right through this and the final people will say, oh my god, that's it, higher highs, and they buy in, and then we can get a tiny little like spring outside of this triangle, outside of the resistance, and then it dumps straight down. And what they did was they used that fuel, they dumped their positions into the buyers the whole way up, and that allows liquidity for like the bigger players. And then essentially when they sell off or open shorts, however they're doing it, it traps all those buyers, so it starts hitting everyone's stop losses for the longs who are buying the breakouts. And then on top of that, all the people that were buying the whole way up are now either taking profits, breaking even, or taking a loss. So now you have a bunch of extra selling pressure, and then often that can give you the power you need to get to a new low. As where if you just consolidate around the area and then all of a sudden you break it, there's a lot less fuel, because there's not as many people upside down in a position. A lot of people will be even one way or the other. But if you can get the price up to high, get people to buy in at a high, or push the price down low, get people to sell at the low, then you immediately get that extra fuel to move it in the direction that you wanted. And that's what they call the spring. Essentially think of it as like a spring compressing, or I like to call it the slingshot. Imagine like the further you pull back a slingshot and then you let it go, the stronger it shoots. And that's essentially what you're doing. You're slingshotting the price in the direction you want. So in order to shoot it in the direction you want, you have to pull it in the opposite direction first. And the more volatility, the more liquidity, the more money you can get in that direction, in the wrong direction, the more fuel you have, the more power you have, the more kinetic energy you have to essentially shoot that slingshot in the opposite direction. So, well, there we have it. That's Crypto Trend Trader, Bitcoin TA on the daily/4-hour chart with some very specific price targets. If you guys have been watching my videos, you know everything's been playing out beautifully. We're just going to keep with the strategy, and we're going to stay with the trend until it doesn't work. So that's Crypto Trend Trader signing off.